Anyone else notice albums are getting shorter? There seems to be a mini trend brewing in country music right now, and that is the idea of a tight record with a track list in the single digits. If we want to go back in time a little, not too long, but just over a year ago, Ingrid Andress put out her 8-track debut album Ladylike, and I remember being a little shocked because she was coming off the monster success of More Hearts Than Mine, so I expected her debut to be this lengthy pop country album just littered with tracks trying desperately to recreate the success of More Hearts Than Mine, and though this was a pop country record, it caught me off guard how short it was, but I respected her for that. I respected that decision a lot to release a more compact, condensed album, and I did enjoy it to an extent. However, the album I point the finger to as the turning point was Carly Pearce's 29 record, which, man, you want to talk about an album of the year contender, it's right up there, and we're closing in on the halfway point of 2021, which is crazy to think, especially considering Ontarians like myself are still in lockdown, but I digress. Obviously, albums take months, even years to plan, construct, and release, so who knows what went on behind the scenes, but it just seems like there's been a sharp and sudden increase in these shorter albums. They just seem to be rising in popularity among bigger artists. It's funny because just a few years ago we were sitting here watching the rise of longer albums. If we venture outside of country for a moment, Drake's Scorpion had an obvious influence on album runtimes and track lists. This idea of an incomprehensibly and unnecessarily lengthy album has just infested hip-hop. The key here is the word unnecessary. Look at Slime Language 2, for example. At 23 tracks, it's one of the most bloated albums I have heard in a while. I did not need 75 minutes of the same rinse and repeat trap music they gave me. That thing had a few highlights, but then the rest was just littered with filler tracks all trying to do the same thing. It's like the Triller boxing event, which was really just a TikTok music festival with some celebrities here, and the actual boxing was used as like an intermission for you to go take your bathroom break. I've gone off topic a bit, so bringing it back to country, we saw artists like Luke Combs begin seeing huge numerical success with his lengthier albums. Both of his first 2 records featured 17 tracks and clocked in exactly at or just under 1 hour in runtime. And I love Luke. I was listening through his discography while I worked the other day, but man, those albums probably could have been cut down to like 13 or 14 songs. Long albums themselves aren't an issue, it's when they're unnecessarily long, and the concern was more and more mainstream artists are going to see the numbers these longer albums do and try and recreate that success by making a 12-track album and then cloning a potential hit another 6 times until you've got an 18-song track list, right? I mean, nobody wants to listen to 17 versions of Glad You Exist for 57 minutes. We've got better things to do. But thankfully, we never saw the plague of bloated albums infect country like we've seen in hip-hop or rap. It's gotten out of control to a point where it's become expected for a rap album to be no less than like 18 tracks, with runtimes consistently upwards of 50 or 60 minutes. It's what makes an album like Heaven or Hell by Don Toliver so refreshing. It's short, to the point, a much tighter and better selection of tracks, so your listening experience is of higher quality. But now we find ourselves in 2021, and with the exception of Dangerous, it would appear as if shorter albums seem to be the current thing in country music. These 7 to 9 track albums are popping up left and right. We've got Eric Church releasing 2 9-track albums, which I find way better than a single 18-track album. Justin Moore put out an 8 but really 7-track album because one of them is an acoustic version of a song already featured on the record. Jameson Rogers has a 7-track album out. Even Brett Young, country radio's darling, is putting out an 8-track album on June 4th, I believe. Even look at Thomas Rhett. Even though Country Again isn't an unusually short record, it's a noticeable drop in runtime from his previous album Centerpoint Road. I'm not going to say I outright prefer short albums because as I sit at my desk, I'm staring at 3 album posters and 2 of them are an hour long. It's just more often than not you're going to get a tighter selection of songs and a much higher quality overall when an artist goes with a shorter album because there's no filler. I'm pretty sure I said this in my double album video, but the length of an album should be the result of the creative process. It should not be the goal of the creative process. If you sit down and say, let's make a 19-track album, but you run out of gas at 12 songs, well, your album's going to have a lot of unnecessary filler. If you show up with a concept you want to explore, an emotion you want to display, that album may end up being 19 tracks, or it may end up being 7. If an album is justifiably long, I have no issue with it, so long as it's justifiable. I just don't want to be up until 1:30 a.m. on a Thursday, listening to an album that easily could have been slimmed down to like 45 or 35 minutes. The benefit of shorter albums, as I said, is the quality is generally higher. If you have 35 songs and cut 8 of them, the average quality of those 8 tracks is going to be higher than if you went in and chose the top 16. I'm not saying every album has 35 tracks to choose from. Maybe Carly Pearce went in and wrote 7 songs and cut all 7 of them. If that's the case, more power to her. But I think you understand my point when I say shorter albums are more often than not just going to possess a higher standard. The other big advantage I find smaller albums have is they don't need to change directions. If your album is 56 minutes, there's gotta be some different flavors mixed in there. It's gonna be really hard to make a 56-minute album that is happy for the whole time and not have it get boring somewhere along the way. But when your album is 26 minutes, you now have the freedom to simply stay in one emotion or one location for the entire time. I'm pretty sure I've used it as an example before, but one of my favorite recent discoveries that, in all honesty, isn't very recent anymore, but Locals Only by Ernest. It's 9 tracks, 29 minutes, and it's happy beach music the entire time. But not once do I sit there thinking, alright, let's have a change of direction here. That's not to say you can't change it up on a shorter album. Eric Church's albums switch it up several times, but with shorter albums you have the option to stay in one emotion for the whole record if you choose to. This whole video is just a bit of food for thought. I'm not sitting here trying to make some profound statement, and I'm not sitting here on one side saying short albums are good, long albums are bad, because as I said, a long album could be great and a short album could suck. It just really comes down to what are the roots of the album. Did this come from a place of creativity and musical exploration, and this is the final result? Or did it come from, we want to make a long album, and this is how it came out, or we want to make a short album, and this is how it came out? It's all a matter of where the artist's heart is. But I'm curious, please do leave your thoughts on the length of records in the comments below. Links to all of my socials are in the description. And yeah, until next time, have a great day.